Have you ever had that nagging feeling that something needs to change and that you're in a transition, like you can feel it in your gut, and yet you don't really know where to start? Then this video is for you. So I was 33 years old, I had a good job. I was good at what I did, I kept getting offered promotions, and yet I had this feeling that I was stuck. I was dissatisfied, I was bored, and I knew that if I didn't do something other than living on cruise control, well then I'd look back in 20 years and think, what was I doing? But the problem is I didn't know where to start. I kept just hoping that things would change, that the perfect job would just land in my lap. And yet I wasn't being authentic with myself or intentional in the way I was designing my work and my life. At some stage, we all go through this stage of unknowing, of not knowing where we're heading, of feeling like we're in a transition and having to really think and reflect on where we're heading to live a more intentional, authentic life. And this may sound scary, and it is tough sometimes to change, but it's such an opportunity because it's a time to stop and to think about who you are and to realize and remember that you have a purpose in life. There's a direction, a calling, a way of being that you're meant to walk into. And this time of disruption can help you start thinking about what that might look like. Make sense? Hit the like button if you know what I mean. My name's Daniel Sih. I'm a CEO. I'm a productivity consultant and a professional coach. And I work with a lot of people in their 30s and 40s who are really wrestling with change. It may be because you've been in your job for a while and you're ready for a shift. It may be because your manager's moved on and you're less happy than you were before. It might be because you've simply changed or the world around you is changing and it's time to do something different. In this time of transition, people are typically bored or dissatisfied, or they just have this nagging sense that something isn't right, and they're starting to ask the question, what might come next? So if this is you, it's time to be honest with yourself, because essentially you have a choice. You can continue on cruise control and not change anything, turn up each day and climb the ladder, or you can stop and think and make a brave choice about what comes next. It sounds tough, but I'm going to give you some of the things that have helped coaching clients that I've worked with to actually make a huge difference. Stephen Covey, a productivity guru of his time, once said that if the ladder is not leaning against the right wall, then every step we take just gets us to the wrong place faster. Let me say that again because it's really profound in my mind, that if the ladder is not leaning against the right wall, then every step we take just gets us to the wrong place faster. Here's what he's saying. He's using the ladder as an analogy for career progression and for life. And I see this all the time in the people I coach, and I've seen it in my life as well, that we kind of get into a career, we get into an organization, and we just start to look up. What might be the next professional rung that I have to climb up into? And instead of comparing with the breadth and depth of possibilities in the world around us, we kind of just start comparing ourselves with this myopic little tribe of people around us who are all trying to just get to that next step. And that can be okay if your ladder is against the right wall. But there often comes a time where you just keep going up the next level and then stop asking the question, should I even be on this ladder in the first place? And it's really helpful to stop and look around and ask the question, where do I actually want to be climbing to? So for example, my first career was as a physiotherapist, and I studied anatomy and physiology and learned to treat people in different hospital and outpatient settings. And I got my first job, and eventually I became a senior, a level 2, and then I became a level 3. And then I became a deputy manager at level 4, and then I moved to level 5 without ever really stopping to think, is my ladder against the right wall? It was a great career and I'm so grateful for the time I had, but probably for 3 or 4 years before I made the change, I was really wondering what comes next. I took the roles above me, and then I started to realize that I didn't enjoy my job as much, and I stopped being able to see myself being happy in this career pathway for a long time. It never occurred to me to ask the question, is my ladder against the right wall, and what might life look like outside of this narrow, myopic view of my career? So I'm here to make sure that you've got your ladder against the right wall. Rather than looking at life like a ladder, what if we could see the horizon and start to think differently about how we shaped our time and our career? One of the big barriers that I've noticed, and I saw it in my life, but I've seen it in others, is what would I do? I got trained as a physiotherapist. It was a very specific skill set, And I kind of felt trapped, as if I didn't really have many options, which is crazy now that I think about it, because I learned how to communicate, I learned how to talk with people and hear their stories. I'd learned how to organize myself and run projects and manage people. I mean, there were so many skills that I learned during my career that have translated so well to so many other areas of life, and yet I could not see it. And I hear this all the time. I was coaching a lady just the other week, and she said, what would I do? All I know is admin, in spite of the fact that she led a massive team. She was incredibly likable and had the ability to manage people and actually run events. And I just heard her saying, what would I offer the world? And I just thought, you've got to see past that ladder that you're looking at and realize that there are so many things that you could do differently. So let me give you a framework from Spacemaker, my award-winning book about how to set and reset and recognize the transition times in your life and what to do about it. So if you step back and consider your life over decades, it's likely you'll see a series of peaks and troughs, which I describe as set and reset. These are different seasons of life and require different productivity skills and habits. So there's set and reset across the landscape of life. Let me start with reset and describe what it looks like before I move to set. So seasons of reset are times of uncertainty, times where you know a change is in the air, you're unclear about if you're in the right role, if you're in the right city, if you're in the right phase of life, and you have a sense that something has to change, but you're not quite sure what. During times of reset, you're often unclear about your goals. You may have a goal, but you're just not passionate about it, and you're not sure about your direction. So times of reset often coincide with changes in your life. You move house, or you get a new job, you move cities. It may be that you get married or have kids or experience a death or a divorce or something painful in your life. Or it might be like COVID-19, where the whole world changes and people start to reflect on what ladder they're climbing, and it led to the Great Resignation and the Great Reset. And it may be none of these things. You know, I've coached people in reset who simply have been in the job for 10 years and they're at the top of their game and they're stale. So what do you do in times of reset? Well, the most important thing you can do is slow down and make space. Space to think about who you are and where you're heading, to reflect on your values, to give attention to the bigger questions that are coming up. Where do I want to live? Am I in the right relationship? Am I in the right career pathway? You know, it also involves giving attention to your values, to your strengths, and just starting to brainstorm different alternatives rather than just getting stuck on that next step up the ladder. So there's a sense where there's a lot of activity and there's energy being used, but it's not frantic doing activity where you're just trying to keep yourself busy with activity and active work. It's a slowing down and a thinking about where you're heading and making inquiries about what might come next. Can you see what I'm saying? It's a different type of productivity than during the other phase, which I call set. So set, in contrast, is a different phase of life where you know where you are, you're content with your job, you're happy about the goals that you've set, and you just need to get on with making things happen. So for example, you may want to achieve this project or achieve this change, where you need to be breaking it down, planning the week, working out next actions, having conversations, doing emails, creating spreadsheets, getting active in actually making these goals a reality. I like set. I'm an A-type mover shaker. I like doing things and feeling like I'm making progress. And that's exactly what you should be doing if there's this sense that actually I know who I am and I know where I'm meant to be, I just have to make this reality happen. So I'm not talking about mindless activity. We still need space to think about how might I progress this goal this week? What might my weekly plans be? How do I time block in my calendar? But it's shorter and more practical thinking rather than taking a step back, opening our hands and trying to detect what comes next. So the starting place to making a transition and living an authentic life is to work out, are you in set or are you in reset? Sometimes it's a bit of both, which is confusing. But where is my attention right now and what might it look like to be productive? Because if you're in a period of set, well then it's not helpful to keep thinking about alternative possibilities for the future. It will distract you from achieving the goals you need to achieve today. And if you're in reset, well, it's not helpful just to do the next thing after the next thing after the next thing to to kind of numb that sense of dissatisfaction, you need to actually make space and start to reflect. It's important to start by recognizing what season you're in. Maybe pause for a second. Are you in set or reset? And what types of activities might be most appropriate to help you move forward in this season?
At the end of the day, it's about making space to think deeply about your life and particularly where you want to head if you're in a season of reset. In my next video, I want to share a personal story about how I made the tough reset decision of moving from a safe physiotherapy job to starting a risky entrepreneurial business and the counterintuitive aha moments that got me from where I was to where I wanted to be. I really hope you'll gain some inspiration from my story and practical guidance from the tips and tricks I'll share in my next video. Until next time, make space.